need natural resources on which we can depend on sun, water, and wind. These sources of power can be our solution. Reduce the pollution. We have the technology to act responsibly, change the policy, improve the economy. Hydraulic fracturing, capturing the gas. Hydraulic fracturing, how long can it last? How long can it last? The wind will blow, the water will flow, the sun will shine for a long, long time. Long, long time. Swift water, high volume, horizontal hydrofracking. No! What's next?
I'd like to get you to sing a song, get us in the spirit of listening to our speakers this afternoon. I have never experienced in my long life such unity and cohesion as exists in this movement in New York State, having been to Albany and a lot of anti-fracking demonstrations. So it's just absolutely an amazing response to the monster which is trying to invade our state. Here's how the song goes. Very simple words. I'll be a bridge to you. You'll be a bridge to me. We'll both be bridges to somebody else, and all turn into one big bridge. Can you sing that? I'll be a bridge. I'll be a bridge to you. You'll be a bridge to me. You'll be a bridge to me. We'll both be bridges. We'll both be bridges to somebody else, and all turn into one big bridge. The seeds have begun to grow. The plants rise from the earth. The flowers and the animals won't say no to the spring that brings new birth. Sing it again now. I'll be a bridge to you. You'll be a bridge. You'll be a bridge to me. We'll both be bridges. We'll both be bridges to somebody else, and all turn into one big bridge. Sing it again. I'll be a bridge to you. You'll be a bridge to me. We'll both be bridges. We'll both be bridges to somebody else, and all turn into one big bridge. The story shines in our eyes. It is clear and simple to see. What will it take for us to realize we're in the same family? One more time and I'll be a bridge to you. You'll be a bridge. You'll be a bridge to me. We'll both be bridges to somebody else, and all turn into one big bridge.
Thank you. I failed to introduce our musicians when they started. That was Arrow Vino first, and then that was John Bajarni. My name is Erin Heaton, and I realized I was trying to kick it off. I hadn't started off with all of that. I would now like to introduce, actually it's my great honor to introduce Dan Lamb, who's running for the 22nd Congressional District. We are so very fortunate here in Chenango County to be being included in this district. Dan's going to tell you a lot about himself, but he's taken strong stands on issues. He cares for the area. He is the person we need to lead us, and I hope all of you will join me in supporting Dan Lamb. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Erin. Good afternoon, everyone. It's an honor to be here. You ever get that feeling you're in the right place at the right time? You know, we've got a big challenge in front of us, and I'm honored to be your nominee for Congress, because we've got to take on some big issues in this country, and none are bigger than what's happening right here and what could happen that could go wrong here with gas drilling. Many of you probably know I've been working for the House of Representatives for the past 15 years, working for one of the best members of Congress New York has ever sent to Washington, and that's Morris Henchy. And it's been terrific working for him. Sad thing is, he's retiring. And he encouraged me to run for Congress, and of course so did Micah Curie and a number of you. And I'm very honored to do that, because I know I'm following big footsteps. And I also know at this time we need an advocate. We need somebody that's going to really look at this issue from top to bottom and go to Washington and be a voice of reason and a voice of advocacy. Right now, our environmental laws are in a state of disrepair. My background is environmental policy. I've got a master's degree in environmental policy. And what has happened to the Clean Air Act, the Clean Water Act, the Safe Drinking Water Act, the Resource Recovery Conservation Act, just to name a few, is an affront. They've been systematically gutted by the oil and gas industry to provide these exemptions. So with regard to gas drilling waste, which comes up after they're done drilling, which could have benzene, toluene, radionuclides, heavy metals, cadmium, some things you might not want in your drinking water, it can no longer be called hazardous waste. Sounds kind of hazardous, but because of the exemption, it's not called hazardous waste. I want to go down there and fix that. I want to reintroduce the Frack Act, which Congressman Henchy's been working so hard on. We need this. Anyone you talk to wants to know what's in the chemicals, what type of chemicals are being used in the frack water that's being used to do this work. It's just common sense. Why wouldn't you want full disclosure? Why wouldn't you want to have the EPA have that authority? That's the Frack Act. Pretty simple. Doesn't go far enough in my opinion, but it's one piece of the puzzle that needs to be put back in place. And I'm willing to go do that. But you gotta elect me to do that. And I'm running against a guy. Let's be serious. If everything was okay with my opponent, I wouldn't be running, but I am concerned. The reason why I'm running is I'm running against a guy who has changed his position so many times. He has something I would call multiple position syndrome. I might even call it hanaphrenia, okay? You might have a case of hanaphrenia if when you were running for Congress, you said you thought the EPA should have this oversight. You said that you thought that the EPA should require full disclosure of chemicals. But now that you're in office and running for re-election and you've accepted $30,000 from polluting industries, you no longer want the EPA involved. You're now saying that, well, they can do it in Albany. We don't need the EPA involved. That's hanaphrenia for you. You might have a case of hanaphrenia if, when you were running in 2010, you said that having $2 million invested in the oil and gas industry is a conflict of interest, and I'm willing to get my money out of the oil and gas industry, so you have a representative who's unencumbered. Well, 2 years have gone by, and guess what? His investments are up. And guess what? He hasn't said a thing about oil and gas and regulating the oil and gas industry. And he hasn't lifted a finger when it comes to the issue of gas drilling. You need somebody who's going to go down there and not be encumbered, not be owing anything to anybody but you. And that's what I'm willing to be for you. I'm proud to have a grassroots campaign, something that isn't funded by any special interest group or PAC money, and to have a competitive campaign. We've run a very smart race, and we're looking forward to finishing very strong with your help. We can do this. We can send a message on November 6th that a guy that's just like the rest of the people in this district, not a millionaire, a guy who wants to make sure that we protect this region, gets elected. In many ways, this race is a referendum on that. Do you have to be a millionaire to be in Congress? Let's answer that question on November 6th.
No.
Can you go in and be independent? Can you be a grassroots candidate?
Yes.
Yes, we can. Let's do that. So I'm just so proud to be here with you today, to know that you've got my back, because I've got your back. And we're going to make a message very clear on November 6th, aren't we? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dan Lamb. I am very excited for this campaign season. I just met a gentleman named Ron who has a quick announcement for us. While we were over here, he was on the other side of the park.
Yeah, I'm not running for office. I just want to let everybody know, because you came right over here after the parade. But you did make your presence known. The whole group won first prize for the group. So what that is, that's a rotating trophy. So you'll have to pick up the trophy at the YMCA, and they'll engrave the name on it, and it'll be passed through the years. Congratulations.
Thank you, Ron. I'm so glad we know that now versus later. That's great. All of that hard work paid off. I would now like to introduce Mary Jo Long, attorney and Afton Town Board member, who's been very active in this movement and who just is phenomenal. Thank you very much.
Hello, everyone. It's good to see you. Can you hear me? Okay. All right. So I got put in the politician category, but I'm on the Afton Town Board, and I've got 2 more years to my term. So I'm not here to ask you to vote for me in the upcoming election. But I've had a number of experiences as a member of the Afton Town Board and also as an attorney, which somehow or another let me be one of the politicians to speak. And I'm going to try to be short. I have 3 points I want to make about gas drilling. The first one is we have a lot more power, we the people have a lot more power than we're told and encouraged to think about. And I first experienced that in the gas drilling context when I went to a meeting in 2008 of municipal officials in the area. And one supervisor who was from Sullivan County raised her hand and said, well, you know, we've got a moratorium against gas drilling. And the lawyer, who was sitting on the dais, the head table, the lawyer said, you can't do that. And that has been a phrase that we are told somewhat regularly, that, oh, we can't do that. We can't have moratoriums. We can't have bans. And luckily, people did not listen to that, that statement. Many of us went and testified or submitted testimony to the DEC, but at the same time, we also did not want to rely on the DEC to protect us. We wanted our local town governments to also be involved in protecting the safety, health, and welfare of our communities. So even though they told people you can't do that, you can't have a local moratorium, we know now that that's not true. Many towns And the first one in Chenango County is the village of Oxford. Yay! My congratulations to you. But although the lawyers, who were really representing the gas corporations and their allies, were trying to say we can't do it, we in fact have shown that if the people demand it hard enough and loud enough and persistently enough, we can. And there are ways, and the judges and the courts have upheld the right of us to determine what is going on in terms of land use. And I think, I'm predicting here into the future as an attorney, that we will also see more and more need successful use of what's called the police power. The power to protect the health, safety, and welfare, not just in terms of zoning and land use, but in the broader safety and health sense. And we towns do have that power, and so when they say you can't do that, luckily we don't listen to it. The second point that I wanted to make is I want to acknowledge the women. I've been involved in this movement for about 5 years now, and I know women are a little more than 50% of the population, but in the movement to stop to the resistance against industrialized hydrofracking, unconventional gas drilling, it has been a disproportionately large percentage of women, both as leaders and as activists, and I really want to acknowledge that. It's been scientists such as Dr. Theo Colburn, who were the first scientists to speak up. There have been many different, Sandra Steingraber is another scientist more locally who's certainly put herself out to show the scientific problems with gas drilling. But here in Chenango County and in the neighboring counties, women have taken leadership roles in organizing, going around door to door getting signatures that ask for moratoriums and ask for bans, and that's been tremendous. I personally, I'm the only woman on the Afton Town Board, and I have a special warm place in my heart for the women who have been coming regularly to the town board to be supportive of my efforts, which have not necessarily succeeded. You're going to hear more about Afton specifically when we have town reports. But I really just want to say, I'm not trying to say men haven't played important roles, but I think women have seen that this is not just an issue of money. It's looking beyond, looking to the broader needs of the community and the future. Okay, so my third point, so that we can go on to other speakers or music or to entertainment. My third point is, as a lawyer, I hear from people who support gas drilling a lot of frequent statements that are to the effect of, I can do anything I want with my property. And I want to tell you that's not true, and that hasn't been true here in this area, this land, Chenango County, the Southern Tier, for a very long time. I want to remind us that the Haudenosaunee, who we know as the Iroquois Confederation, they lived here before Europeans came. Their concept of property wasn't personal and the ability to make individual personal financial gain. They had a broader sense of the land and what lived on it and under it, and property was not something that an individual claimed to make their gain. And when Europeans came, we also brought with us sometimes, or had here, Africans who became property. And we had slavery in this country, and there were slave owners who said, I should be able to do what I want with my property. If it's my slave, I should be able to do what I want. And we now know, of course, that that concept seems inhumane, but property as a concept can take many forms. The current notion that you can do anything you want with your properties, generally people are thinking about real estate and land. But of course, you can't build a house on your land without a building permit, and you can't move people into it without a code, and you can't have a low radioactive waste dump if you're going, you don't have control over all your property. You have the right to use your property, but not in a way that will harm others. And that's an incorrect characterization of what our rights are with regard to our property. One of the most sort of egregious violations of that property rights, I believe, is that the government is helping gas corporations to take our property. Many people are going to be compulsorily integrated, and yet they don't want gas drilling. And yet the state of New York legislature has passed a law that says if a gas corporation controls 60% of a gas drilling unit, they can forcibly integrate, and that is take the gas from under the land of people who own their property and who refuse to lease. So that's the whole concept of property is much more complex than they would like us to believe. I think that one of the things we need to do is control the power of corporations. Gas corporations are only one example, to not have undue influence over our country. And in fact, the corporations are now corrupting our democracy and dominating our elections. And we need to talk about how to prevent corporations from being treated as persons. But let me tell you, they're going to say to us, oh, you can't do that, when we try to take away the rights of corporations to run our democracy. But don't believe them, just like we didn't believe them about the right of municipal governments to regulate land use in their towns. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary Jo. I'm going to invite a number of speakers who are visiting from the area, but first I'd like to go back and talk about the war just won for the parade again. There's two individuals that I'd like us all to thank. One is Eddie Rodriguez and Alex Neal. Where are you, Alex? Wave an arm. Where's Alex? I'm not seeing him. Okay, but thank you very much. They spent an enormous amount of time putting that all together, and the signs. A lot of people joined them in painting of the signs, but it is incredible the energy they put into that, and the creativity, and the just overall planning. So thank you. I would like to next introduce Doug Kushan. I want to pronounce it correctly. Doug Kushan is here from Chemung County, and he's going to announce an upcoming event. This rally is part of, there is that noise, part of a 5-county rolling rally series. So I believe we're number 3, and he's going to be talking about when they are going to have their event. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, everyone. You are welcome to come to Chemung County anytime and to join us for all that's available in that county, and also to respond to calls for action as we get more prepared and trained to do creative, peaceful resistance, aka non-violent resistance. Well, what are we doing in Chemung County? There is the city of Elmira, the town of Horseheads, and the town of Elmira, who are doing petitioning drives. 2 of them in Horseheads and Elmira. Those are for a moratorium on fracking. The town of Elmira is starting one for a ban on fracking. And of course, the ultimate goal of moratoriums on fracking are eventually a ban. So that's what we're involved in currently. I'm a member of People for a Healthy Environment Incorporated. The Inc. after the name is because we decided to incorporate so that we could sue the village of Horseheads and Schlumberger 3 years ago for building an illegal Schlumberger complex in the middle of the village of Horseheads. We got a judge sympathetic to the other side and lost, but we made our stand. And currently we are bringing suit against the village of Painted Post, who's permitting their water against the will of so many of their citizens to be taken to Pennsylvania for fracking there. And that's not working out for an awful lot of people. So that's what we're up to. And the most recent event People for a Healthy Environment has planned is a celebration of water down by the Chemung River right in Elmira. You are all invited to that. We planned it to involve faith communities and people of faith because they're very important. These folks are very important to the success of our mission, of our movement. And everybody else who would love to come. We'll be down by the river. There will be song, there will be poetry, there will be speakers, there will be ceremony, Native American, and just going to be a wonderful program. We were going to do this tomorrow at 10:30 today, with the forecast being for rain and driving winds. We decided to put it off until the spring, so there'll be more on that coming. And again, you're all welcome to be there. And I'll close the same way I opened. You're welcome in Chemung County anytime. We are all in this together. We are all living and sharing on top of the Marcellus Shale. Take care, everybody.
Beautifully stated. Thank you. Oh, excellent. I am delighted and honored to be able to introduce Howard Lieb. He just arrived. He's representing the 51st New York State Senate District, running against Senator Jim Seward, and is representing 10 of the towns across the top half of Chenango County. So I'm delighted you have made it, and I'm going to let him speak to you. Thank you.
Hello, responsible citizens. It's nice to see you all here. I bring you greetings from various parts of the county. I was about to say wonderful to see you here, but in point of fact, it is sad that we have to be here for something like this. Because the reality is, while others don't understand this, there really is only one side in this debate. Whether the other side realizes it or not, we are looking out for them. Because fracking, I know I'm preaching to the choir here, fracking is a horrible idea. And it is horrible for several different reasons. The argument that we make over and over, you've made, I've made, we've all heard, is the environmental argument. It's real. It's true. We know it to be a fact. We've seen the movies. We've read the studies. Fracking will hurt our environment. Let there be no mistake about that. But you and I have both run into people who go, the science is still out. These are the same people who believe the science is still out on global warming and whether or not the Earth is round. But the fact is, there are people who say this. And that's fine. They don't have to agree with us for them to understand that fracking is a horrible idea. There's human health. Leave aside planetary health. There's human health. Again, last week, you guys have probably read it, 3 studies came out. 2 from Canada, 1 from Pennsylvania, on the effects of fracking on the people who live in the area. It wasn't even a close call. People who live around fracking get sick. We know that. We've seen that. We didn't need the study to tell us, but we've got the studies to tell us, especially children. I believe the phrase in the article was, illnesses you wouldn't expect children to get. Well, you would if they're living around fracking. So there's people we have to worry about, not just the planet, but people. But not everybody cares about people. Some people only care about money. Okay, let's talk to them in their language. And let's be very clear, we have to talk to them in their language. We cannot keep going to them and saying, you'll kill the planet. They don't hear it. We can't go and say people get sick. They don't believe it. So talk to them about money. Because it's a horrible idea when it comes to economics too. What happens in your classic natural resource mining endeavor? People come into the area. That's true. People come in. And they stay for a short while. The average lifespan of a fracking well is about 5 years. So they'll come in for about 5 years. And there may be some money made during those 5 years. But there's going to be an awful lot of money spent during those 5 years to build up infrastructure, to build up housing, maybe to build up schools. And then at the end of the 5 years, bye, they're gone. What do they leave behind? Well, they may leave behind wells, for one thing. Hopefully taken care of. I wouldn't take that for granted. We have 4,100 orphan regular wells out there that the DEC has no idea what to do with. Then doesn't have the personnel, doesn't have the money to take care of. And in these budgetary times, I don't think the DEC is getting a huge amount more money. So taxes will have to go up to deal with this. The infrastructure, the roads, the housing will have been, if not decimated, at least hurt. Communities will be left on the bust side of the boom-bust cycle, and the bust side lasts a lot longer than the boom. We don't want that. We don't need that. Fracking is a Ponzi scheme. The drillers don't need the natural gas. We can't even use the natural gas. As you know, we have a glut. We have more natural gas than we know what to do with. Prices are at an all-time low. What does that mean? It means, one, anything we pull out of the ground is going overseas. It's not staying here to help us. So it's not solving our energy problems. Two, it means that the reason drillers are drilling is not that they need the gas or the wells. They need to be able to justify getting more and more investment in their operations. It is the classic Ponzi scheme. We will keep getting new investment in order to pay off the old investors and keep going. This is not economics. This is fraud. What do we need? We need to stop it. How do we stop it? You guys are a major part of it. Letting people know, getting the word out, keeping the pressure on will help. You all know that right now the DEC has extended the study. They've said they have said they will do a health study. Of course, they're going to do it in-house rather than have it done right and ask the Department of Health to review it afterwards. We'll fight that. We will fight that. But we also need to fight it in the legislature. And to do that, we need to change the legislature. What I am hearing, although he denies it, is that Governor Cuomo really wishes this issue would just go away. But it can't, and it won't, because there are too many people pushing it. What he needs is somebody to give him some political cover. Here I am. Put it on me. Blame me. I'm the one who defeated fracking. I'll take it. We need to change the legislature. We don't need to change everybody, but we need to change in the Senate about 3 or 4 seats. I am happy to be one of those. And again, for that, I need you. Because I am in a David and Goliath campaign. My opponent has about 100 times the money I do. But we have the ideas. We have the interest. And what we also have is the enthusiasm. If you travel around the district, as my wife and I have been doing, you see very, very few Jim Seward signs. Now, I see some of mine here, and it's a great thing for me to see, because I haven't seen them very much. But we only got them in last week. So whoever put them up, thank you. I appreciate it. It's the nice thing about being a very small campaign. You're all appreciated by the guy running. It's us. But when you do see Jim Seward signs, they're always with Romney or whoever's running for Congress. There are no signs by themselves because nobody likes Jim Seward. Some people don't mind him. Some people don't care if he goes back. But I have not met one person who said to me, I can't vote for you because I love Jim Seward. There's not a lot to love there. A week and a half ago, I got to meet President Clinton. I will tell you, running for state senate has been worth it just for that. Amazing man, amazing charisma. He reminds us that you don't build the economy by giving tax breaks to the wealthy and tax breaks to big business. You build the economy by getting tax rates that matter and make sense so that you can pay your bills as a government, but you get the money from the people who have the money. Willie Horton used to say, why did he rob banks? Because that's where the money is. Why do you tax the rich? Because that's where the money is. But I've also, in this race, finally met Jim Seward. Not as big a thrill as meeting President Clinton, I will tell you. Jim has been at this 26 years. Before that, he spent 13 years as a staffer. When you look up career politician in the dictionary, there's his picture. He has never worked anywhere else. He votes 99.6% of the time with his party leadership. That's not independence. I want to go to Albany to represent you. Not the insurance companies, not the special interests, and not even, with apologies to my friends on the committee, the Democratic Party. I'm a Democrat. I have been since I am 10 years old, when I walked the streets for Eugene McCarthy in 1968. Some old McCarthy fans here. I really wish we'd won that one. Anyway, some battles die hard. Some battles die hard. I am a Democrat because I believe in the principles of the Democratic Party. I don't believe in the principles of the Democratic Party because I'm a Democrat. We stand for people. Real people. Not people created by an edict of the Supreme Court. Flesh and blood people. That is why we need to do things like Medicare for all. We need to insure everyone. But by the way, again, the economic argument. Talk to people in language they understand. We cut 5% or so of the state budget. We bring down the costs of health insurance, and we insure everybody. That's the last point you raise with the other side. They don't care about that. Saving money, that they care about. We need to raise the minimum wage. It is a crime that they did not do this term, although the governor may dangle money there, a pay raise for the state senate in front of their eyes in order to get them to do it. They don't need a pay raise, folks. When they tell you they haven't had a pay raise since 1999, they forget to mention little things called Lulus. Anybody know what a Lulu is? Good. A Lulu are these little additional payments that aren't so little that they get for having weird titles that have no responsibilities. My opponent is making somewhere north of $116,000 a year for a part-time job. Nice work if you can get it. That's why he's going to spend something like $500,000 to keep that part-time job. But that's how you build an economy, is by raising the minimum wage. Trickle down does not and has never worked. What we need is push up. Give people money, they will spend it, that creates demand, that creates jobs. So this is what I need from you. And I'm going to ask you very clearly, because I see somebody creeping towards me, wanting the microphone. I know how it works. This isn't my first microphone. I'll give it to you in just a minute. One, if you are in my area of the district, and I'm going to read you the list because I brought it with me. I have, and I apologize if I mispronounce any of these, Link Lane, Otselic, Smyrna, Sherborne, Columbus, Pitcher, Farcilia, Plymouth, North Norwich, not Norwich, just North Norwich, and New Berlin. If you're there, you're mine. If you're not there, move. A week from Tuesday, I need your vote. I need more than your vote. I need your support. If you're not in the district, or if you are, tell your friends who are. This year, we have a new voice and a new choice for New York. I'm asking you to vote for Howard Lieb on November 6th so that we can make New York work the way we know it's supposed to. Thank you, and thank you for all you do.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Now, I don't wish to rush anything, but I know we have a full schedule. So, with that, I'm very pleased that we had so many politicians show up for this campaign season. It's really, really important that Chenango County feel the support. We still have a few people here visiting from another county. Right now, I'd like to introduce 5 women representing the 5 counties in the sacrifice zone.
As a resident of Broome County, I cry because fracking respects no boundaries. I cry because radioactive, toxin-laden fracking fluid and ozone-polluted air do not stop at the artificial line drawn on a map. I weep because the borders of states, counties, and towns, and the boundaries between one landowner's property and another are as permeable as tears. When fracking happens in one place, it seeps out to affect the health and safety of us all, from unborn child to aged parent. Already, the air and water of tens of thousands of people in my Broome County are at risk from fracking in Pennsylvania. Now is not the time to mourn. Now is not the time to allow our governor to sacrifice our health and safety to line rich men's pockets. It is time to stand strong together and ban fracking everywhere in New York.
Hi, I'm Ms. Chemung, and I'm here to mourn with you, to mourn with my sisters of the Sacrifice Zone. I have 1 minute to tell you what's happening in Chemung County, and there's a lot happening. There's not fracking. Fracking is not legal in New York State right now, but I'm here to tell you, and there's no Halloween pun intended, we're being buried down in Chemung County with fracking operations and fracking support operations. I'm going to go through what I've described as a pentagram of evil. And I'm going to do it in less than 1 minute because he who shall not be named says that I can't. In Horseheads, New York, we have a place called the Horsehead Sand and Transloading Terminal. In that terminal, we have New Park Drilling Fluids, a Houston-based company. We have Anchor Drilling Fluids, a Tulsa-based company. We have gas field specialists who run equipment, construction, frack tanks, pumps, etc., running out of Horseheads. We have Caden Company, who works with flow and level switches. We have Schlumberger, the world's largest oil field service company, in our backyards. Also within the host terminal, we have silica sand being brought in from the west. And I'm not sure, silica sand is new on my radar, so just to tell you, it's used to keep fractures underground open. With it comes the risk of scoliosis, respiratory disease, and lung cancer. The frack sand is chemically treated, and when it's transferred from railways to trucks in Horseheads, New York, you can see a plume and a cloud of silica sand going over a playground. This is what we're facing in Chemung. I'm moving on to my third one. In Lohman, we have drill cuttings coming in from Talisman. The evil doers down in Pennsylvania are bringing their drilling cuttings. With that is coming radioactivity. This is in our backyard. We're doing it now. Fracking is not legal in New York. We have a rise in crime coming. There's high rates of drug and alcohol abuse. In particular, with drug use, we have a huge methamphetamine problem. DUIs have increased, sexual assaults have increased, assault and battery has increased. Just our neighbors in Bradford County have had to increase their court time for criminal cases down there. This is what we face in Chemung. And last but not least, this one touches me, as the whole issue does, but this one personally, we now have unaffordable housing in Elmira, New York, which is absurd. This is a very depressed area, and now you can't afford to buy. There's housing shortages, and you can't get rents. I couldn't live in Corning, New York right now if I tried. So we got increase. So it's a pentagram of evil, folks. We've got access to toxic spills, we've got sand, silica, we got increased rates. There is nothing good happening in Chemung right now, and that's why I stand up here today to mourn with my sisters of the Sacrifice Zone and with you all, and thank you for being here.
Hi everyone, I'm really glad you're all here, and I'm Miss Chenango, and I am you. I am sleeping in the forest. I thought the earth remembered me. She took me back so tenderly, arranging her dark skirts, her pockets full of lichen and seeds. I slept as never before, a stone on the riverbed. Nothing between me and the white fire of the stars. But my thoughts, they floated light as moths among the branches of the perfect trees. All night, I heard the small kingdoms breathing around me, the insects and the birds who do their work in the darkness. All night, I rose and fell as if in water, grappling with the luminous doom. By morning, I had vanished at least a dozen times into something better. That was by Mary Oliver. Thank you. From my perch, from the tall oak on Rattlesnake Hill in Steuben, I can see far into the river valley. I see the Cohocton to the west. I see the herons fishing in it. I see my brother and sister eagles flying over it. I see the Tioga to the south. I see it becoming increasingly brown south of where the Canisteo joins it from the west, its source being Pennsylvania. But its beauty is still alive. I see the farmlands bordering the banks of the Canisteo, the cows mingling with the deer, all drinking from the water. I see the rivers converge to form the lovely Chemung. The valley is beautiful beyond belief, the hills around it vibrant with trees and creatures. In my mind's eye, I see the riverbanks turning brown, no greenery left. I see the river turning darker, fish bones lining their shores. I see the hills turning gray as the tree branches bear no leaves. I see and hear no more my brother and sister eagles, hawks, herons,
and small singing cousins. No more pastoral farmlands or forests, no more creatures. I hear only booms and thuds, see only smoke and flares. I blink, and my valley returned in all its glorious, spectacular, vibrant beauty. I hope my vision was only a dream, a nightmare, and not a prescience of what might come. But I must fly, I must hunt. Join me.
From my beautiful 42-acre piece of paradise in Tioga County with its 39 streams, one of which runs in front of my house, Owl Creek, I cry each day. I cry for my friends in West Virginia and Ohio, and especially Pennsylvania, and I cry for fear of what might come here to the southern tier and to New York State. But you know what? I'm done with crying. No more crying. We can't succumb to grief. We can't despair. We can't be like bereft lovers and mothers and grandmothers who send their children off to war. Because, make no mistake, this is a war. And we will not mourn, because the meek shall inherit a toxic waste dump. But we should not be meek. We cannot be weak when we stand together, but strong and invincible. We shall rise up and stop these criminals who would slaughter our water, our air, our homes, our communities, our woods, our farms, our families, our children, and their future and ours. Because fracking is a crime. No fracking way. 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 No fracking way.
No fracking way. That was phenomenal. Thank you. All right. I'd now like to introduce up Cecile Lawrence, a Green Party member and an activist in Tioga County. She's going to speak to us, and then we're going to have a performance by Lisa Wunkovich. I'm going to start announcing who I'd like to see moving forward, because sometimes I can't see you out there. All right. Thank you, Cecile.
Hello, people of Chenango County. Hello, people of New York State. Are you warm enough? I hope so, because pretty soon we're going to be having what they're calling a Frankenstorm. And where do you think this Frankenstorm has its origin? They're even calling it a defecane for a hurricane. Is this what we want to be having happening? Not really, no. None of the people in the media, none of the politicians, and definitely not our present president has made this statement that the Frankenstorm that we're currently anticipating to hit this area comes from climate change. And we need to realize this, that this comes from climate change, and it comes from heating up the planet too much, and it's a connection between one action and another. Heating from the planet too much, and that goes back to gas drilling, because gas drilling gives off methane, and I thought we were supposed to be decreasing methane, not increasing it. Don't we want to decrease methane? Yes! So we're here today, some of us to mourn, but also we're going to be celebrating in a way, because we're here on a village green. And a village green symbolizes us getting together in community to fight those who wish to make our lives more miserable, those who wish to increase our chances of having Frankenstorms or dethecanes or whatever you want to call it. We need to get together and be in community together, because this is how we're going to succeed to fight this. And I will not give up, and you will not give up. None of us will give up, because this is worth too much. We need to win this fight, and we will win this fight, because we will not have fracking in New York State. And this is something that you can hear that I am passionate about it, because I am pissed that I came from Jamaica a land of hurricanes and earthquakes and so on, because I thought I would get away from hurricanes and earthquakes and such. I thought that by moving to from Jamaica, that I would get away from corruption, that I would get away from legislatures and town boards that did not behave in a proper manner. And lo and behold, I'm dealing with, and you are dealing with, and we are dealing with the same darn thing. The same thing that I thought I would get away from, the same kind of corruption and the same kind of narrow thinking, the same kind of digging in the earth for a bauxite and having difficulty breathing in the air, and it's here. And I will not move, and you will not move so as to get away from it. We're going to be in this together, and we're going to hang together, and we're going to win this fight. So I'm asking you all that wherever you are and whoever you are and whatever group you're with or not with, that you make sure that you tell everyone that you know about this, that you talk to each other and tell others about what's going on. And those who, when you say to them, what do you think about fracking? And they say, fracking? What's that? That we will no longer have anybody like that who will say, fracking? What's that? That everybody will know about it and everybody will fighting against it, because the whole of Chenango County, the whole of Tioga County, and the whole of New York State will be one force together that will fight this, and we will win. Thank you.
Thank you, Cecile. I'm actually going to jump another speaker up because of time constraints, and then we will jump right over to Lisa Wunkovich. I'd like to introduce Susanna Schwartz, who's here speaking to us today from Sherburne, although I believe it's right on the cusp of Sherburne and Columbus. So here you go. Thank you.
My son's the boss and he wants to go home, so. Anyway, I'm here because I believe people's rights shouldn't be measured by acres or leased acres. And, you know, I own 100 acres and I don't think that I should have more rights than someone who rents a half an acre on Route 12 or anything like that. And so I was very surprised when I went door to door in Sherburne and Columbus. I spoke to about 100 people. And I would say about 99% of them were opposed to fracking, but surprisingly, they all believed they didn't have a right to say anything because they didn't own acres or they didn't own a lot of land. So I'm here to implore all of you to recognize that if you vote, if you work here, if you have family here, if you engage in commerce, if you're engaged in your community, you have rights, the equal rights. And so you should implore your local politicians to pass ordinances to protect your way of life and to at least, you know, do the basic things like not only protect roads, but protect your agricultural characteristics and protect the night sky, protect yourselves from noise pollution. If those ordinances aren't passed now, then it's going to be too late once this thing starts going, if it starts going. So I urge all of you to recognize you have rights, regardless of how much acreage you own or don't own, and get those ordinances passed right away. Demand that they be passed so that at least your rights are protected as much as everybody else's. Thank you very much.
Thank you to Susanna for being so patient, and well, and her son, mostly. You did a beautiful job. Thank you. He handled it really well. That was a long parade, and then a wait. We're going to have Lisa Wunkovich come up. She's a farmer, poet, mask maker, and activist from Delaware County. Following that will be Joan Roster, and then Kathy McNulty, just to give you a little warning. Well, to give them the warning.
Right back.
Hello, Chenango County. So glad to be here. From Delaware County. I've been a farmer for 23 years, a poet and a farmer. And I'm going to do 2 short poems for you. Later on, I'll do another one. One of them, I'm sorry to say, I wrote on the way to my first SGEIS meeting 5 years ago, or somewhat around there. I wanted to call in and acknowledge my mother, because whenever I didn't know what to do as a child and would ask her what to do, she would always say, use your imagination. And so I'd like to tell the gas companies to leave us alone for a while so that we can use our imaginations instead of fracking our land. My first poem is called Milking. It's warm inside the dried, blood-painted barn. Danny trowels the sweet manure soup, scrapes the concrete. I stand back from the slurry splashing from the hind end, watch him wipe the teats, attach the flopping pump hose, talk about weather and gas drilling. We move to the next cow. Careful, this one kicks just like her mother. Veined udders, let down spray. 22 years I've come for milk, watched him dump the foaming white. Cynthia had her chemo yesterday. Today she limps, chilled in coveralls, hauling 5-gallon buckets of feed. Outside, a silver milk truck blows smoke, siphons pasture to New York bellies. 11 cents a pound, farmers all gone broke. White wisps like thoughts over pregnant countryside hover. I try not to blame my good neighbors for signing the gas lease. Try not to imagine the slam, dunk, bam, pistol whip, waterboarded earth pissing herself, vomiting, slick, secret, Ipapac, gas, frack juice, poisoning our children's children. This next poem is called Gas Drilling, It's Like This.
Are you Marcella Shale's mother? I've got a deal you can't refuse. $1 million tip for the hand of your daughter. Okay, 7 million. I'll do the slicing. I saw at the Thank you, Lisa. That is powerful stuff.
I would now like to introduce Joan Roster from Broome County, a farmer and activist. Thank you. And then it'll be Kathy.
I have traveled to many states, and I can tell you there is nothing like New York State milk and cheese and yogurt. According to the New York State Farm Bureau, farming and its related services generate $4.5 billion annually. With the upsurge in yogurt production, this figure will go higher. Since 2005, yogurt plants in the state have doubled production, placing increased demands on milk producers. Dairies that produce this milk are supported by acres of hay and corn, such as are grown on my 135-acre farm in Broome County. In the 5-county region singled out by our governor for experimental hydrofracking, there are close to 430,000 acres of cropland. This has been the backbone of sustainable agriculture in this region for generations. But in adjoining states, whenever gas drilling comes in, the number of dairy farms plummets 18%. What happens to cropland, to the dairies dependent on it, and all of the service industries, when upwards of 20% of the land surface is cleared of trees and vegetation to make room for our well pads and service roads, pipelines, and compressor stations? What happens when water needed to support livestock and crops is used instead to frack the shale and bring up radioactive fluid that has to be disposed of? What happens when that fluid spills and poisons animals and cropland? Who will buy our milk and cheese and yogurt then? One accident can ruin an industry's reputation. Even the pro-gas ads on TV warn that drilling for natural gas has risks. Some say these risks are worth it. The farmers will get rich. Yet hundreds of poor farmers in these 5 counties who don't want their land fracked are locked into old, worthless gas leases that have expired. And the gas companies are in court, fighting to keep them at their mercy. That's how much gas companies care about New York State farmers.
Okay, great, thank you. And now Kathy McNulty, who's going to talk about the Constitution Pipeline, something everyone should be paying attention to.
Hi, I'm going to talk about the Constitution Pipeline, and I'm going to tell you right now I'm really afraid. I'm afraid of public speaking, but I'm afraid of the Constitution Pipeline, and at Halloween, that's the emotion you're supposed to feel. I've been feeling it for years. It's headed straight for my farm. It's going to go up one side and over the top. I've got 120 acres. All of my friends, all of my neighbors are afraid of this. They feel like they don't have the power to fight it. I'd like to give you the image of Nagini. The Constitution Pipeline has a 120-mile high-pressure radioactive snake, a venomous snake headed straight for your plumbing. This thing has been laid out not very carefully. It's heading for our farms. It's going over high peaks and heading for our streams. And especially in our area where there's flooding, this is totally irresponsible. The landowners who are fighting this are not selfish, and they are not unpatriotic. I'd like to give you another image, and this image is the map of the streams and the creeks and the rivers in your area, in New York, in my area, and I'd like you to superimpose a map of your veins and your arteries and your heart over it, and I'd like you to see that as synonymous, analogous, and dependent. I'd like to give you another image, also a Halloween image, and that's of a cooking pot or a cauldron. Bernadette Devlin said many years ago, if you want to help, if you want to be in politics, that you should start in your home. And that's what we need to do, because they're heading straight for our cooking pot and everything that's in it. And that's what women should do and are doing, protecting their homes. I would like to give you another image, and that's of a tractor, and I want you to climb on your tractor or your virtual tractor and head November 6th to the polls, and I want you to vote for anti-Frack candidates. In Sydney, my home, Toby Whitaker, Bill Heath, and Jean Pickford are all running, and they're all anti-Frack, and they come from different parties. 2 years ago, we elected people who were conservatives, Republicans, and Democrats, and we have the land and the water in common. I want you to think again about your cooking pot, and I think we need to get into the street and bang on it real hard and make a lot of noise. Being smart is a good thing. Being quiet, not so much. Being noisy is how we got this far. I'd like you also to be afraid this Halloween. Very afraid, but not of your neighbors trying to save New York. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kathy. You don't seem afraid when you get up here and speak. Not at all. I would now like to introduce Sally Doty of Coventry. Following Sally will be Mike Bernhardt of Afton, and then Ken Fogarty of Guilford. So if each person would start coming up over here, that'd be great.
Remind them to bring their water.
Oh, and please bring your water from your area for the collecting. Thank you.
Hi. I live in Coventry. Coventry is a tiny, tiny town on Route 206, right between Greene and Bainbridge. It's beautiful up there. We're right in between both river valleys, the Susquehanna and the Chenango. It's beautiful up there. A couple of months ago, our town board signed the landowners' resolution to promise that we wouldn't put a ban on fracking. Even though it was very clear that the majority of the residents of Coventry do want a ban on fracking. Everybody's very distressed about this. Most of us care about our health, and we know it's important to preserve the integrity of our environment, the quality of our lives. A lot of people feel very discouraged and helpless to fight against the powerful gas industry, especially when our communities are so divided. As is the case in most towns where the gas industry has visited and waved the idea of big money around under the noses of the landowners. Divide and conquer. It really works. They know it works. They know what they're doing. They're bullies. They don't care about our lives, and they don't care about our health, and we can't make them care about any of that. So we need to be prepared to do whatever it takes to protect ourselves. I'm here to ask you to not get discouraged. Don't be discouraged. This is winnable as long as we don't give up. We can't give up. It's the only way that we can win. We need to keep our motives clear. We need to maintain our resolve that we will not allow our environment to suffer permanent damage for their short-term gains. It seems to me the best way to fight something is to come up with a better idea, to come up with an idea that makes whatever you're fighting seem useless and obsolete. We should demand renewable, sustainable energy programs. I watch the news, and I like to look at news from Europe. And when you see what Germany and Spain are accomplishing with solar power, it's incredible. Germany doesn't have any more solar than we have. And they're doing fabulous things with solar. And just this week, Saudi Arabia has announced they intend to switch its power sources to all renewables. Saudi Arabia, that vast oil-rich country, has decided its oil is worth more in the ground than going up in smoke. They plan to become fossil fuel free. You know, think about that. What are we doing here? We need to work together and demand a clean energy program. Working together is the only way we're going to prevail. We all have differences. They've divided us by money. The rest of us have to stick together, and we really can win. We just can't give up. Thank you.
I'm Mike Bernhard. I'm from Afton. This is the defining issue of our time. 40 years ago, it might have been the Vietnam War, but this is the defining issue of our time. Are we going to be conquered by and governed by corporations, or are we going to be governed democratically through our town governments? In 2007, the gas dealers came through and snagged a bunch of my neighbors with $20 an acre leases. In 2008, the town supervisor of Afton sold his farm to Norse at 3 times, by his own admission, 3 times the price that it was worth, about $1 million. Since that time, our town government has considered it to be its role not to protect the people of Afton, not to promote or preserve what we have, but rather to make give the gas companies opportunities to make profits in Afton. And they've done that by repealing the town road use law that we had that would have protected our taxpayers. And they did it by signing on to the Joint Landowners Coalition resolution asking that Afton be fracked first. And they've also done it by conducting town hall meetings where they allow the incivility of the gassers to dominate and chase people off from participation, scare people off from participation in their own towns, in their own communities. The thing that people have to do, we can see, is not to count on our president or our senators to do what should be done to protect our communities, to protect our world. But we have to work at the local level. And a lot of people here it's a defining issue, because a lot of people here have gone to their town boards for the first time to participate as citizens and to make the town boards do what the citizens want them to do rather than what the corporations want them to do. And I think that's been a tremendous victory that we've got started doing that. And in Afton, we've seen that the problem is much bigger than just gas drilling. That the people that are in power are there to serve corporate interests, whether they're gas or lumber mills or stone quarries. And we have formed an organization called the Afton Vision Group. Our table's over here, and we'd like to talk to you about Afton in general. Bainbridge and Coventry have joined us at this table, and we'd like to talk to you about how we're trying to move forward to get our government to do what the people want it to do and protect the land and the water and the air and the people of Afton. And here goes Afton's water. To symbolize that that is something that we all share, just like we all share the air. Thank you.
Rosemary, come on over. Hi everybody, I'm Ken Fogarty. I'm from the town of Guilford. And I was thinking about my grandfather who used to sit with me and say, you're going to go into politics, and I did. I'm a teacher also, but I was in politics. He said, even though you have an opponent, always try to think of something good to say about that opponent. There must be something good if you dig in there, and sometimes there is, often there isn't. So then I got to thinking, gee, I wonder if I would dare get up in front of this group and say something good about fracking. And it's pretty challenging when you think of it. Now, I couldn't think of anything good to say about it until I was in Oxford about 2 weeks ago, and my good friend Irving Hall looked at the crowd and he said, you know, 3 months ago I only knew 2 names of people in this room. And now I know everybody. So I said, you know, that's it. I came to Chenango County 2004 as a flood victim from Delaware County. And you might think it's bad being a flood victim. It has its pluses and minuses, and I still love water, and I would never think of saying a bad thing about water. And then I thought about it. Gee, when I came here, I only knew one person, and that was Ed Rodriguez. He took me in because I had no place to live. And then I look around, and I have met, because of this fracking issue, some of the finest friends I have ever known. So it's a great pleasure to be here with you. And picking up on Mary Jo's comments before about the leadership of women, I asked my good friend Rosemary Thomas, one of my new good friends, please join me there when we celebrate the blending of the waters, which is what we're going to do. And the reason is, I was very busy in this part of the area. In Norwich, we had something CCARE, which was Chenango Community Action for Renewable Energy. I was quite active in that, in the county seat. But Rosemary was on a very lonely journey down in Guilford. She was the one that first gave attention to Guilford Lake, which is the source of drinking water for the hamlet of Guilford. And she went door to door, all on her own, with no organization, knocking on doors, collecting petitions, and people became aware of the need to protect our drinking water. So I've asked Rosemary to come here. We now have a new group in Guilford. It's called Friends of Sustainable Guilford, and I'm very happy to work with Rosemary and others on that. And we also are involved in testing the water streams so that we get baseline before the poison comes. And Rosemary helped me with that. We picked out 5 different locations. And Rosemary, we're going to bring up those things now. Not to upstage Afton, but, oh, this one is called Lion Brook. Lion Brook flows, the headwaters is North Pond, and all the area is leased around there, and it flows through Guilford, and guess where it's heading, Irv? It goes right into Oxford. So if the poison gets into that water up in Guilford, and if we don't get a moratorium in or a ban in our town, you guys may have it down in Oxford, but be aware the poison's coming. No town can stand alone. So, Rosemary, maybe you'll dump this. I'll get the lid off. The whole thing, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, here we have Kent Brook. This one we get down on Route 8. It flows out a heavily leased area where there is a farmer woman who usually shouts at town board meetings, pour that one in, that nobody will tell me what to do with my property. Well, she's less hostile when you work in a committee with her. I'm now in a committee called Protect Guilford, and she's really a nice person. And the other day she commented that she protects her farm because she has a 40-page lease. And then when her friend spoke up and said, well, we have to trust the gas company and we have to trust DEC because they're going to take good care of us, I said, well, why does our good friend here, Barbara, have a 40-page lease? If there's such nice people that we're dealing with, you wouldn't need a 40-page lease. A handshake would do it. They'll come and do their good things to us and then be gone. She knows she has to protect ourselves, just as we know we have to protect ourselves. Her delusion is she thinks the 40-page lease will protect her property, but it doesn't. So, that one is Guilford Lake. Guilford Lake, we have upper. This is as the water flows out of the lake. We've tested it the other day. Alex Neal and I tested it. It's very clean, pure, good drinking water. And then we have Willie Creek. Willie Creek flows out of Guilford and directly into a reservoir for drinking water for the people in Bainbridge. So we're not alone. It's not good enough for one town to have a ban or a moratorium. Water flows, it goes everywhere, and that's what we're doing here. We're mixing it together, the water that we all rely on. Okay, so we're working not only for Guilford. Rosemary says we're done, and it's nice seeing you. Bye-bye. Rosemary would like to say a blessing on the water.
Yes. As this water is being brought down into Broome County to be for the blessing of the waters, I would just like to say, I would like to bless the Lord God Almighty for the water that He has given us. And I would like to ask Him to give grace and wisdom to the people of this land, that He would not lead the people and the leaders into temptation, but deliver us from this evil that is coming upon us. And that he would just bless this water as we bless Him. And thank you for all that He has given us and the stewardship of taking care of the creation that He has given us. Amen.
That was beautiful. Thank you. I would next like to invite up Earl Callahan speaking on behalf of New Berlin, followed by Mary Heaton speaking for the city of Norwich, followed by Kathy Dawson, another Guilford resident who is a rapper, teacher, activist, and way cool. She will be, well, we'll be surprised. Okay, Earl, thank you.
This is a very short report from New Berlin. The town board of New Berlin has distanced itself from any fracking discussions, either pro or con, and refers all inquiries to the planning board, and a board ill-equipped to speak to the issue and give any updates to the community. Now I want to talk about inspiration. I do wonder why community leaders are not inspired enough to have a community-wide discussion on issues surrounding fracking. They are uninspired by the kind of landscape they will be leaving to their grandchildren. They are uninspired by the Iroquois promise of a plan to think of the 7th generation ahead when making changes now. They are uninspired by the realities of stewardship of the land by the pledge to protect population. Myself, I'm doubly inspired by the landscapes left our rural county by retreating glaciers, and by the people who are willing to fight against overwhelming odds to make certain their land and lives are not impacted by overburdening industrialization. I have water from 2 sources in New Berlin, and we are pleased to blend these pure New Berlin waters with other Chenango waters in the act of uniting us.
Hi, I'm Mary Heaton. I was born here in Norwich. I have lived in Norwich almost my entire life. I love Norwich. I love small town life. I love the rural culture, the beauty of our surroundings. I do not want to see this turn into an industrial zone. So before I report on local fracking news, let me just run down a partial list of why I am opposed to the current practice of horizontal hydrofracking. Exemptions from the Clean Air Act, Clean Water Act, Safe Drinking Water Act, carcinogens, toxic emissions, radioactivity, rashes, commercials full of lies and guys with dimples, sicknesses, noise pollution, endocrine disruptors, illegal dumping of fracking fluids, gag orders, complete disregard for Mother Earth, explosions, earthquakes, sinkholes, global warming, the list goes on and on. It's way scarier than a Halloween story, but it's real, and it's kind of at our doorstep, and we have to make sure it doesn't get here. Okay. Regarding the city of Norwich, a couple of friends and I went to a common council meeting recently, and we had an opportunity to speak with the mayor and the aldermen about fracking, and we were assured that there will be no fracking within the city limits. But then in the next breath, we were told that disaster training had been beefed up and the first responders would be prepared to handle any emergency. So that kind of sounds like a mixed message. Even if there is no drilling inside the city, I'm sure city residents will feel the effects. I mean, we're all bound to know about the heavy truck traffic and the diesel fumes and the noise pollution and the wear and tear on the local roads. But the thing that I am most concerned about is that there have been discussions among our city leaders about selling some of our municipal drinking water to the gas companies to be used in the fracking of wells. No deals have been made, but the possibility has been discussed. Now, one gas well can use up to 5 million gallons of good drinking water in the fracking process. And you know, once that water gets contaminated with toxic chemicals and radioactive elements, it can never be added back into our water system. And our local water treatment plant is not capable of dealing with it. There's currently no safe way in New York State to dispose of fracking wastewater. And something I find particularly distasteful is that they've been allowing the dumping of fracking brine on some of the roads in rural communities in New York State, and the DEC actually allowed this, although I believe with the 2011 draft SGICE, they're rethinking that. Anyway, if this stuff is dumped on our roads, as snow melt or dust control, then there's nothing to stop the heavy metals and the poisons from leaching right down into the aquifers or getting washed into nearby streams. I mean, Norwich sits right here in the middle of a valley, and if you look at the Norwich map, which is on the table over there, there is leased property all around it in the town of Norwich, and we'd be downhill from fracking runoff on all sides. Norwich's drinking water, some of which I have right here, comes from 4 wells and 3 reservoirs, which includes my beloved Chenango Lake, all of which are outside our city limits, where the drilling might eventually be permitted. So that opens the door to the possible contamination of our sources of drinking water. And it's such a precious commodity. It shouldn't be wasted this way. We should be protecting our water for future generations and for ourselves. So I feel very fortunate because so far in my life, whenever I wanted to, I could open up my tap and get wonderful drinking water. I can take a bath in it and not worry about rashes and skin diseases. I can bathe in it, wash my clothes in it, whatever, and it's not going to be flammable, it's not going to be explosive. I sure want to keep it this way. So, I am adding some of Norwich's municipal water to this vessel to blend with the other samples from around the county, and tomorrow it is going to be brought to a celebration of water to be blessed on the banks of the Chemung River, also part of the sacrifice zone. I love the idea of blessing the water. I love the idea of banding together with the rest of the Southern Tier. We all wish for our water to be protected, to keep its integrity, to remain safe for us to drink, to cook with, to shower in. I have these great hopes that Governor Andrew Cuomo will make a wise decision.
And that I grew up in, and with my husband we farm the property, and we're the third generation to be farming this property. I love Chenango County. I love the ruralness of it. I love the quiet. I love the neighbors and the church suppers and the firehouse dinners. I love the wildlife. And I've been to different countries, different states, and I always come back to this area and I think, wow, this is really beautiful. In fact, one time we went on vacation to national parks, and came home and we were kind of disappointed.
Hello. My name is Barbara Collins, and I am from the town of Norwich. And I, like my mother and father before me, and their parents before them, and like my husband and my 7 children and my 12 grandchildren, I was born a New Yorker. From good old Levittown, Long Island, where I was born, to the farms and hills of upstate New York that I moved to as a child. I really do love New York. I live now on over 50 acres of land in the town of Norwich and consider myself one of the luckiest people alive. I was born a New Yorker and had hoped I would die a New Yorker, but now I'm not quite so sure. Something is threatening the New York we love so well, and that is hydrofracking. I thought I would speak about why I personally am opposed to hydrofracking. First and foremost, it makes it impossible to do the one thing I've spent my life trying to do, which is protect my children and keep them safe. How can I perform this basic task of motherhood, of parenthood, when the very air we breathe and the water we drink may be threatened? Oh, but we're told hydrofracking is safe. And who tells us that? The gas and oil industry, who has paid lots of money for numerous studies that say so, and then lots more money to make sure that their message trickles down to our local government. Well, even if this safety were to be true, which I believe with my whole heart that it's not, won't our water supply still be threatened? Does it not take millions of gallons of water to frack one well, and aren't they proposing thousands of wells for Chenango County? Isn't this water permanently removed from the hydrologic cycle and never fit for human consumption again? And most important, is there really that much water to spare? I don't think so. Assets. Way to go, Village of Oxford. People call Chenango County poor, but I just don't see it. We have what everyone needs to live. Fresh air to breathe and clean water to drink, and we have an abundance of it. These, along with our shared freedoms, are the things that should be ensured by our government. No one has the right to harm another with their choices. No one has the right to harm our commonly shared assets for their own personal gain. Our towns need to step forward and do what is right by their citizens. A moratorium would be the minimum act of protection that a town could offer. It would give a community time to do what is necessary to protect all its citizens. Towns have to remember they are not just representing a select few, but all of us. And if it takes years to get to the point where a town feels it has its citizens protected properly, then so be it. The health and safety of our citizens and the future of our children are the first responsibility. It would be well worth the wait. Lastly, I'd like to wish happy 40th birthday to the Clean Water Act, put in place in 1972 to protect the waters of the United States. But in 2005, the Clean Water Act was weakened to allow for the new process of hydraulic fracturing. And why? Not in our best interest, but in the interest of an industry that cannot function without threatening our air and water. Governor Cuomo, you have exempted the Syracuse and New York City watershed from hydraulic fracturing because you believe it is unsafe for non-filtered water systems. Well, in my town of Norwich, the majority of the people have unfiltered water systems. Don't we count too? Dear Governor Cuomo, please protect us and let us live to our dying days in the state we call home and ban fracking now. Yeah.
Thank you, Barb Collins. That was wonderful. Is Patricia Plummer? Here she is. Okay, it'll be Patricia Plummer and then Rashia Healy, and then Aro Vino is going to join us again up here. Thank you.
Hello there. I'm from South Selick. I've lived in South Selick for 37 years. On most mornings, I can be found walking my dog, Boo, down Mariposa Road in the small town of South Selick. We turn around at the top of the hill. Since 1932, South Selick has been home to one of only 12 New York State fish hatcheries. We proudly celebrate our fishing region each spring with Fishing Heritage Days. The quality of life we enjoy each day will quickly be replaced with destructive turmoil should fracking visit our backyards. The quietness and isolation from all the hubbub are what makes South Selick a great place to live and raise a family. It is a way of life that I take for granted each day. Aldous Huxley once wrote that men do not learn very much from the lessons of history is the most important of all the lessons that history has to teach. New Yorkers, we have so much to learn from our Pennsylvania neighbors. We need to heed their warnings. David Kagan from North Central PA warns New Yorkers in his Corning speech. He spoke, New Yorkers, be very, very, very strong in your resistance to this awful fracking industry. If New York allows fracking, you will suffer intensely from the noise, dust, diesel, pollution, traffic congestion, accidents, and road damage caused by hundreds and hundreds of industry trucks. If New York allows fracking, you will see your forest land exploited, stripped of its trees to make way for many well pads, of water and gas pipelines, holding ponds and tanks and access roads. Wildlife and plant territories and boundaries will be disrupted, hiking trails disrupted, hunting areas made off limits. And lastly, Keegan pleads to New York. New Yorkers, work as hard as you can to stop the fracking industry from ruining your land and lives. And always be proud of your striving against an industry associated with greed, pollution, death, the exploitation of the earth, and a parasitic relationship with nature. Of your having taken instead a firm stand in support of a living, loving, symbiotic connection of man with the natural world. Thank you.
Hello, my name's Rashia. I'm from Preston. I've lived there 35 years. I came to live there because of clean water, clear air. It wasn't because of the taxes. Unfortunately, Preston is 80% leased. That means even those of us who haven't signed a lease are subject to compulsory integration. That's the bad news. The good news is that there's some people in Preston that really care, and myself and 2 others have joined together in a water monitoring group, and we are testing the waters in Preston on a regular basis to get clean baseline. We're worried because there's already been quite a few wells drilled up in our little hills, and we're keeping an eye on things. So we brought some water today from Preston, and we'll be happy to add it to this other water from the county. Today I'd like to remind you all about something that you learned in grade school, and that's the water cycle. I've heard a lot of people here talk today, and I'm sure you all know about the water cycle, but you know, water is not created. It's a finite resource. It keeps getting recycled and redistributed, but it's the same water that we're using that was here in the ages of the dinosaurs. That brings us to the second obvious point that gets overlooked, and that's all water is connected. The water that you drink today was maybe used by Julius Caesar. There's no more. It's precious. So much of the water that's in the planet is in reservoir in our bodies. We are 90% water. Each one of us is a walking bag of water. And not only us, but all of our 4-legged and 2-legged beings that we share the planet with, we're all water. And that's such an important fact that people just lose sight of. We can live without natural gas. We can't live without water. Many of us have made a decision to use different natural gases to heat our homes, but it was a choice that was foisted upon us by industrialists at the beginning of the 20th century. We don't need to use this antiquated technology anymore. We are smart enough to figure out ways to move ahead and use renewable resources, and we need to push our governments to do that. Water, like air, indeed like earth and sun, are all shared resources. We need to let these forces guide us as they've been guiding humanity for millennia. Our planet knows what it needs. Our planet has a certain intellect and knows how to rebalance itself if one doesn't push it too far. And if one does, Earth will push back. This is what the earthquakes are. Earth is saying, hey, this is enough. And how far do we have to push it before Earth gets really mad? We need to think about that. I'd like us to all make choices that will keep Chenango County a place that we will want to live in the future. Each of us has a responsibility to speak to anyone that will listen. Hydrofracking is not a good use of our water.
This is my body. This is your body. We are a body of water.
I'd like to add some water too from Tompkins County. Yeah, I've never been to Norwich before. I live near Ithaca, and it feels just like home. This is a very unified movement, and we're doing great. I wrote this song especially for today's rally. This is the Sacrifice Zone. The Sacrifice Zone. Leave it alone. Don't frack the southern tier. It's near Pennsylvania. Can't say I blame ya for wanting financial security, boost the economy. But if you go to Pennsylvania, you will see out-of-state license plates at the drilling sites. Noise pollution day and night. Heavy truck traffic to the left and right. Toxic exhaust. Is it really worth the cost to the environment? It's a dangerous experiment. A dangerous experiment. It's a dangerous experiment. The Sacrifice Zone is someone's home. People live there. People who care what happens to the air, the water too. So how can you sacrifice their health for the wealth of a few? It's true that we use fossil fuel, but we won't be fooled into believing it's the only way to go. We will say no, 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 no. Oh no, 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 no. No sacrifice zone. No sacrifice zone. No sacrifice zone. No sacrifice zone. The Sacrifice Zone. Leave it alone. Don't frack the southern tier. Don't frack the southern tier. Don't frack, the southern tier. No fracking, wait. Thank you all for doing this. You're awesome.
Thank you, and I think that needs to be recorded and heard widely. That was just our what would it be called? Campaign song. We all need that going forward to play everywhere, every day. I'm going to invite up now Logan Atsit from Visalia, Mina from Oxford, Peter Hudenberg from Plymouth, followed by Annie Lenahan of Smithville. Before they come up, and as they're starting to walk up, I would also like to tell everyone of, and remind you if you did know, that following this at 7 o'clock at the Elks Club, we're having 2 bands to celebrate Frack-Free Chenango. We're going to have Fetish Lane starting at 7 o'clock. It's a full reunion of the band. And for those of you that know the band, it's been a while since we've heard them all together. You're lucky when you catch it, so please come. And then it'll be Zydeco Trailblazers. So we have a fantastic evening lined up. This just goes on and on. We have a lot to celebrate. We have a lot of us. So come meet some more people at the Frack-Free Chenango concert at the Elks Club starting at 7. Of course, we're going to want to grab food in between. A lot of us are planning to go to the Bohemian Moon. So you're welcome to... right across the street. Thank you. I was going that way, but that way. Thank you. So now we'll have Logan come on up. Thank you.
My town, Visalia, accompanies 25,000 acres, 11,000 of which are filled with forest. There are so many reasons why I don't want hydrofracking in my community. It will industrialize our rural landscape, waste our precious water source, contaminate our drinking water, create ground-level ozone that has an endless list of health impacts, and hydrofracking will tear apart our communities and make us slaves to an industry that has only financial incentives in mind. Furthermore, we have an abundance of farms in Visalia and Chenango County. Livestock have consumed contaminated water from wells, springs, and ponds, causing illness, reproductive issues, and death. Fracking poses a potential source of competition with agriculture for access to fresh water. It requires millions of gallons of water for each well, and widespread shale development can compete with essential water needs of this area. Fracking is incompatible with livestock production and incompatible with everyday life. I am here as a concerned member of our community. Hydrofracking is a slow poison to all people for the short-term profit of a reckless few. This is completely unacceptable. Why are we searching for yet another fossil fuel when our world is in the midst of an environmental crisis? It is ignorant and selfish to be searching underground when instead renewable energies are everywhere. I am a mother to a 9-month-old little boy. The Visalia Town Board seems to be unconcerned about the effects of natural gas drilling on my child's health. How do I explain to my son that his town board had the chance to protect him with a ban on fracking, but chose not to purely due to financial incentives? We must know by now that you can't drink money, right? Visalia has 100 anti-fracking petitions to date and still counting. Many individuals have come before the board to give them facts on natural gas drilling and the negative impact it will have in our area. I've wondered and wondered how they could outright ignore the truth, but I figured it out. It all comes down to money. The famous Dr. Seuss would call those kinds of people greedy dirtbags. Our elected representatives and our town boards have sworn to protect all life residing in the area they govern. If they are true to their oath, they must protect us with natural gas drilling bans to protect the water, air, soil, and all life from harm. I must believe that our county has the courage to protect their residents from harm and to not be cowards and stand behind the DEC. When I look to year 2013 in Chenango County, I would like to see a search for renewable energies, less consumption of fossil fuels, more independence by growing our own food and practicing sustainable living. Natural gas is not a sustainable energy and will not bring prosperity to our area. The only jobs that natural gas drilling brings here is a well water tester, soil contamination remediation specialist, class action lawyer, and an oncologist. There is no safe drilling, and the pro-gas drillers must understand that there will not be fracking in Chenango County or anywhere in New York State without resistance. We must resist this chemical genocide. Visalia is a small town that is part of a beautiful county, and we can't frack it up.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Mina Takahashi, and I'm here with Ellen Anderson from the Village of Oxford, Susan Granada from Lake Gary, also in Oxford, and Trellin Smith, and we're all here from the town and Village of Oxford.
And Kelly Brennan, sorry, I didn't see Penny come up. Beautiful ladies in Oxford, New York.
We collected water from land we stored in Oxford to add to the waters from all over Chenango County in solidarity of our joint promise to protect this precious resource that we share. The industry reveals that 1 out of 20 well casings will fail within the first year. This means that there is 1 in 20 chance that methane migration from a well drilled near my organic vegetable farm could contaminate my wellspring and then move downstream and contaminate Trellin's well, or that methane migration from Lake Gary could make its way into the municipal water source of the Village of Oxford. If you agree with us that 1 out of 20 is too high a risk, we must do all that we can to keep this industry from coming to Chenango County and to the state, and ultimately we must stop this practice in this country.
Oxford is home to the first moratorium on gas drilling in Chenango County. And that's thanks to a lot of people here. An incredibly dedicated group of individuals from Oxford and from surrounding towns that, you know, I mean, I can't speak for all of them, but it's been an amazing group of people. When people ask how Oxford did this, for us, we think it started with strong municipal leaders who understand and have the courage to take seriously their responsibility to protect the health and welfare of its residents and the land. That was huge to have them supporting us. And a community that worked together to create and educate both itself and its neighbors and to support our leaders in their efforts. This was the case for the Village of Oxford. The town of Oxford is a different story, a story that mirrors much of what others are experiencing all across this county. We must work to encourage our municipal leaders to do their job, to take responsibility, to protect the constituents they represent, and to safeguard our productive land.
We must move minds and hearts to recognize the known risks.
Who's got the megaphone?
Here's the megaphone.
There you go. I've been wanting to try this all day.
Okay, good. Oh, here we go. Okay. We must move minds and hearts to recognize the known risk of shale gas drilling. And when we come up against self-interest, stubbornness, and a lack of willingness to listen to the community, then our remedy is at the ballot box. In just 10 days, we will have a choice. In Chenango County, we have 2 candidates that are running on anti-fracking platforms. Dan Lamb for U.S. Congress and Howard Lee for New York State Senate. Now, more than ever, it is critical that we go to the polls on November 6th and cast our vote. Some of us may not have local leaders on the ballot this term, but we guarantee you that our local officials are taking note of who we elect to state and national offices. And who knows? They may be swayed to change their position. And if not, we will bring forward responsible, community-minded candidates for the 2013 election cycle. So there is much work to be done in all of our communities. We must talk to our neighbors, attend town board meetings, write letters to the local papers. The storm has come! Write letters! Raise your voice on this issue, and together we can protect Chenango County. Thank you!
Can you hear me? No?
No.
A little bit. How about now? Is it any better? I think it is. So, everything about this industry eventually pollutes and contaminates. The Pennsylvania Alliance for Clean Water and Air is documented 500 cases. Huh? It's not on like that is. It's on. Okay. It's on. And so the Pennsylvania Alliance for Clean Air and Water has documented over 500 cases of heavy air and water pollution and other types of accidents with many serious health effects and some deaths for people and animals. These industry gas pipelines leak and explode. Wikipedia lists over 200 pipeline accidents since the year 2000. So that's over 16 accidents per year on average. We've got to help out the people in the southern part of this county and Broome, Delaware, Otsego, and Schoharie in fighting this Constitution pipeline. Because if we allow the Constitution pipeline to go through, it's naturally going to invite the gas fields. More wells will be drilled and fracked. More compressors will have to be put in for the feeds going off to industry who want the gas, and also to feed the gas in from the gas wells that they would want to drill in this area. And of course, as we probably know, Williams and Cabot are not really stewards of our natural resources. They have caused quite a few problems, and especially in Denver. Here's some reminders of the things that can go wrong when you live close to gas facilities. Kathy and John Sayers of Morgan County, Ohio, lost their house when a Tennessee gas pipeline exploded. Spectra Energy underground storage field and compressor station was built close to Mary Mack of Clearville, Pennsylvania. Her water was polluted with arsenic and volatile organic chemicals. She now has partial paralysis in her legs due to lesions in her spinal cord. This underground storage field is a very, very dangerous setup. You know, when they put the gas in there under pressure, all the water levels in wells and streams, everything goes up. In fact, water starts bubbling up through people's floors, you know, like basement floors and so on. And then the people can smell the gas around the area, or they can smell petrochemicals. The Spectra Energy underground storage field and compressor station was also, well, the same one actually was sited close to Wayne and Angel Smith in Bedford County, Pennsylvania. And their air and water was also polluted. And they've lost a 600-pound steer, 3 calves, a cow, 3 dogs, 12 chickens, and 4 cats. Whoever said this industry is toxic? I mean, how could people get that idea? Warren and Rebecca Sheffield and family of Dish, Texas, contracted multiple chemical sensitivities and vertigo. Their children are easily winded and suffer vomiting, hives, itchy skin, nosebleeds, and seizures since their air was polluted by a compressor station. A compressor station was built 780 feet from Pam Judy's house in Carmichael, Pennsylvania. Since then, she suffered headaches, fatigue, dizziness, nausea, nosebleeds, and her blood tests show benzene and other chemicals. And Brian Beadle and family of Hill County, Texas were polluted by Williams gas wells. They found sulfates and toluene in their water, and their goats and a llama swelled up and died. I put that in a letter to the editor, and Ron Palmer read that and said, "Oh my God, those are my relatives down in Texas." And then he told me more, namely that they'd lost their farm. They had to leave it. They couldn't sell it. You know, as you probably are well aware, once your property is polluted, it's worthless. So that's about it. I have 2 gas wells about 1.2 miles away from my house, and so far as I know, my water is still not poisoned. But while those wells are being drilled, I mean, I and my cats were wondering about it, you know, and one never knows. And I have already spent $700 to do one series of water tests, and so now I and the rest of us have the option of doing more water tests in the future. Like, assuming that this whole boondoggle were allowed to go through, we would have to be doing water tests, what, every 6 months or so. Every time a new well would be drilled, we'd have to do another water test. So this is not something we want to allow to happen here. Thank you.
Can you hear me?
Yep. Right into the mics.
What's your model name? 190.
I was going to talk about hydrofracking and how it's going to destroy hundreds of people's lives in Smithville. I was going to talk about the Smithville Town Board thinks that a regulatory agency like the DEC, who works for the gas industry, will save our town. I was going to talk about how the Smithville Town Board is ignoring the fact that a majority of the population wants a ban. I was going to talk about how 4 out of 5 members of our town board have financial interests in us being fracked. I was going to talk about how many human lives these gas corporations, regulatory agencies, town and county officials will destroy. But no, I'm not going to talk about those things. I want to talk about what's closest to my heart. I want to talk about the wildlife, who are the innocents in this horrible, horrible war. And this is a war for the swallowtail's life, the swallowtail that won't land on my hand again. A war for the sparrows that landed in my hand last winter and the chickadees that always talk to me when I'm lonely. A war to defend hawk, raven, or crow, who will remind us to look at the future. A war for the fawn, the child of the forest, the bear and the fish, the trees, the water, the air, the voices of the life in the forest. In my heart, I promise to fight for the innocents who will die. I promise to stand for those that cannot speak for themselves. We have no right to destroy the innocents.
if you have a voice, scream out against this plague. Sing out against the destruction to come. If you have legs, stand up against the people who would destroy everything that is good here in this beautiful, beautiful land. Use your arms to bring an understanding of what this plague of greed means to your neighbors. Stand up on your 2 feet and make yourselves heard. With your hands, write letters. With your mouth, talk to the people in the street. With your heart, rise up and fight to take back our country. And most of all, rise up to protect those that are innocent. Thank you. We're water from Sketchup, the biggest spring in the county, I hear.
Wow, look at all this beautiful, clean water, pristine, perfect right now in front of us. That's what we're defending today. In closing, we are going to have John Bajarni come up and sing. I would like to, though, first just really thank everyone that spoke today, came today, marched today, will be playing this evening for the music, played today. So thank you to all of you, and I hope that we get to see you for the later portion as well. John Bajarni, thank you.
I feel incredibly honored to pull this all together at the end, and I'd like to bring a song that was written in the spirit of ownership that Mary Jo talked about earlier, about the sense in which the Iroquois felt about ownership of this land. And I think that's what Woody Guthrie meant when he wrote the song, This Land Is Your Land. I don't think he was talking about mortgages and real estate. And I also put together a verse to solidify our commitment to our state here, because New York is at the top of the list of what the gas industry wants, and we are standing firm. And the verse goes, when you sing it, will be from Buffalo City to Long Island, from the Adirondacks to the Southern Tier. Please sing it if you know it. I bet a lot of you know it. This land is your land. This land is my. Can't hear you. From California to the New York Island. From the redwood forest to the Gulf Stream waters, this land was made for you and me. I roamed and rambled, and I followed my footsteps to the sparkling sands of her diamond desert, till all around me a voice was sounding. This land was made for you and me. Sing it again. This land is your land. This land is my land. From California to the New York Island. From the redwood forest to the Gulf Stream waters, this land was made for you and me. As the sun came shining and I was strolling, and the wheat fields waving and the dust clouds rolling, as the fog was lifting, a voice was singing. This land was made for you and me. Now our New York chorus. This land is your land. This land is my land. From Buffalo City to Long Island, to Long Island. From the Adirondacks, from the Adirondacks to the Southern Tier, to the Southern Tier. Keep those crackers out gotta hear one more time. This land is your land. This land is my land. From Buffalo City to Long Island, to Long Island. From the Adirondacks, to the Southerns here. This land was made for you and me, and not a driller.
Thank you, John. Thank you all. And again, we hope to see you at 7 o'clock. We all deserve to celebrate now. So 7 o'clock, Elks Club, and thank you all for the day. Thank you.